Welcome to Casa Academy, Chapter 10, Part 1, where we will cover legal descriptions. I am absolutely thrilled to jump right into this with you today. We're going to unpack exactly how the real estate world pins down the very earth we stand on, and they do it with absolute unshakable precision.
Here in our pre-license course, we're exploring a fundamental topic that, frankly, you probably never think about until you're right in the middle of a real estate transaction. I mean, we all know what a house looks like, but how is that specific piece of property legally identified? How do we put into legally binding words exactly what's being bought, sold, or transferred?
Let's start with a simple question. If you're buying a house, how do you know exactly where your property boundaries are? Is it where your neighbor's fence stands? Or maybe is it that kind of arbitrary line where they just stopped mowing their grass? While those visual clues might give us a rough idea, there's absolutely no way they are reliable enough for legal purposes. When property ownership transfers, the lenders, the title companies, the government agencies, they all need an airtight, precise way to identify the exact parcel of land. Rough clues just won't cut it.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We've got 5 sections today. Section 1 is the problem with history. Section 2 covers meeds and bounds. Section 3 is the government survey system. Section 4, the plat method. And finally, Section 5, exam conversions.
Okay, Section 1. The problem with history. Monuments to modernity. Let's look backward for a second to see why these modern methods were even invented in the first place.
Historically, property was often described using physical landmarks, or what they called monuments. Imagine looking at an old deed that says your land goes from a winding creek over to a large oak tree. Sure, that might have worked perfectly fine back when land was largely undeveloped, but it created massive problems over time. Why? Well, trees get struck by lightning and die. Rivers flood and change course completely. So as property values skyrocketed, relying on nature just didn't work anymore. We absolutely needed calculated, permanent precision. Though, fun fact, you might actually still stumble across some older deeds that use those outdated monument descriptions.
Moving right along to Section 2, meets and bounds, the perimeter path. What's super interesting here is that this is considered the absolute most precise way to describe irregularly shaped parcels. Let's break down that name. Meets simply means measurements, so distances. Bounds refers to boundaries, or compass directions. Now, this entire system hinges on what we call the point of beginning, or POB. From that exact starting coordinate, the description literally traces the property's perimeter using distances and compass directions, wrapping all the way around until it returns exactly to that POB. Because it traces the complete outline, it can accurately pinpoint basically any bizarre, complex shape you can think of.
All right, Section 3, Government Survey System, the Florida Grid. You'll also hear this called the Rectangular Survey System, and it was developed to standardize massive areas of land.
If we look at how this applies specifically in Florida, the whole system is built on a massive grid. It's completely anchored on 2 intersecting reference lines right in Tallahassee. You have the Tallahassee baseline running east and west, and the principal meridian running north and south. From those 2 intersecting lines, surveyors establish parallel lines every 6 miles, projecting outward to form a giant grid pattern across the entire state. It's literally like a massive piece of graph paper.
Now let's see how this grid builds downward. As a quick administrative note, your verification code is 665410. Okay, so this breaks down beautifully. Step 1. Those lines every 6 miles create big squares called townships, which are 6 miles by 6 miles. Step 2. We zoom in further. Each township is chopped into 36 smaller squares called sections. Step 3. Those sections are subdivided even further into individual acres. So you start with a massive state grid and boil it all the way down to a specific acre.
So, the absolutely crucial point to remember for your exam is this exact number right here, 640. Because each section measures exactly 1 mile by 1 mile, every single section contains 640 acres. You really need to understand this relationship because questions calculating these measurements are basically guaranteed to show up on your test.
That brings us to Section 4, plat method, lots and blocks. This is the third and final method, and it's the one you'll most commonly encounter in modern residential subdivisions.
Here's how this plays out in the real world. A developer buys a massive tract of land, right? They chop that large parcel up into smaller lots for houses, group those lots into blocks, and carve out space for streets and common areas. They draw all of this out on a highly detailed map, which is called a plat. Once that map is officially recorded in the public records, individual properties can be legally described just by referencing the lot number, the block number, and the name of the subdivision. Super efficient. If you live in a modern neighborhood, this is almost certainly how your own home is legally identified.
Almost done. Section 5. Exam conversions. What to memorize. Passing your exam requires more than just understanding the theories. You really have to memorize the math.
You absolutely must memorize several extremely important land measurement conversions. Off the top of your head, you need to know the number of feet in a mile, the square feet in an acre, and exactly like we discussed earlier, the number of acres in a section. These specific mathematical relationships are literally foundational to real estate, and they'll frequently pop up on your exam questions, so definitely commit these to memory. To wrap up this explainer, remember that legal descriptions exist for one single reason: to precisely and permanently pinpoint real property ownership using 3 distinct methods. You've got the perimeter tracing precision of meets and bounds, the massive standardized grid of the government survey system, and the neighborhood-friendly plat method.
So, let me leave you with a quick challenge. Apply this to your own life today. If you go online and look up your county's public property records, which of these 3 methods describes your own residence? Go find out, and I'll see you in the next lesson.